Ever heard the saying, "Don't judge a book by its cover"? Well, today we're talking about a story that gives this old phrase a whole new meaning. It's about a group of Filipino teachers who moved to the United States, faced skepticism about their so-called old-fashioned teaching methods, and then watched their students soar past everyone's expectations. This isn't just a feel-good story. It's a powerful lesson about culture, education, and the true meaning of success. So, let's set the scene. For decades, the U.S. has been facing a serious teacher shortage. To fill the gap, school districts, particularly in urban and rural areas, have been actively recruiting educators from other countries. The Philippines, with its strong emphasis on education and a large pool of English-speaking teachers, quickly became a major source. Thousands of Filipino teachers packed their bags, leaving behind their homes and families, all for the chance to teach in American classrooms. They arrived full of hope, armed with degrees, years of experience, and a deep passion for their profession. But the transition wasn't exactly a walk in the park. Imagine stepping into a completely new environment. The culture is different, the school system is different, and the students are different. These Filipino teachers, who were respected figures back home, suddenly found themselves under a microscope. Their American colleagues, and even some parents, looked at their methods with a bit of suspicion. Their style was often described as traditional or old school. What did old school even mean? It meant a focus on discipline, respect, and a structured classroom environment. It meant things like regular homework, memorization drills, and a clear hierarchy where the teacher's authority was paramount. Back in the Philippines, this is the norm. The teacher, or ma'am or sir, is a highly respected figure, almost like a second parent. There's a cultural value called utang na loob, a sort of debt of gratitude which fosters a deep sense of respect for elders and authority figures, including teachers. Students stand up when a teacher enters the room. They listen attentively. This wasn't about being overly strict for the sake of it. It was about creating an environment where learning could flourish without distractions. In contrast, many American classrooms at the time were moving towards more progressive, student-centered models. These models emphasized group work, creative exploration, and giving students more autonomy. The teacher's role was shifting from a sage on the stage to a guide on the side. So, when these Filipino teachers came in with their emphasis on direct instruction and structured routines, it clashed with the prevailing educational philosophy. Some critics quietly wondered if these old methods were outdated or if they would stifle creativity and critical thinking. The teachers felt the pressure. They were in a new country, trying to prove themselves, and their very approach to their craft was being questioned. But here's where the story takes a fascinating turn. These teachers didn't buckle. They adapted, yes, but they also held firm to the core of their beliefs. They believed in the power of fundamentals. They knew that before students could engage in high-level creative thinking, they needed a solid foundation of knowledge. You can't analyze a historical text if you don't know the basic facts. You can't solve complex math problems if you haven't mastered your multiplication tables. So, they got to work. In their classrooms, you'd see a unique blend of two worlds. They maintained their structured approach. Rules were clear, expectations were high, and respect was non-negotiable. But they also learned to incorporate American teaching strategies. They embraced technology, encouraged classroom discussions, and found creative ways to make learning fun. They were building a bridge between two different educational cultures. The real magic, however, was in the relationships they built. They didn't just see themselves as instructors. They saw themselves as mentors, as taitas and titos, aunts and uncles. They invested time in getting to know their students personally. They learned about their students' families, their struggles, and their dreams. They stayed after school to offer extra help. They called parents to give positive feedback, not just to report problems. This level of personal care and dedication created an incredible bond of trust. The students felt seen, they felt valued, and they felt safe. And in that environment of trust and high expectations, they began to thrive. slowly but surely, the results started to show. And they weren't just small improvements. They were dramatic. In schools where Filipino teachers were a significant presence, something remarkable began to happen. Test scores, which had been stagnant or declining for years, started to climb. First, they reached the district average. Then, they surpassed it. Then, they started to catch up with the state average. Let's look at a specific, well-documented case: Baltimore City Public Schools. In the early 2000s, Baltimore was grappling with underperforming schools and a severe teacher shortage. They hired hundreds of Filipino teachers. Initially, there was skepticism. But within a few years, data from schools with a high concentration of these teachers showed incredible gains, especially in math and science. Students who were once years behind grade level were now not only catching up, but excelling. The same story played out in other districts across the country, from rural Texas to inner city, Las Vegas. In one particular school district in Louisiana, a group of Filipino math and science teachers took students from one of the lowest performing schools, and within 3 years, their student scores on standardized tests surpassed not just the state average, but the national average. Think about that for a second. Students in an under-resourced school, taught by teachers whose methods were initially questioned, were now outperforming their peers across the entire country. How did this happen? It wasn't one single thing. It was a combination of factors. It was the emphasis on mastering fundamentals. The rote learning and drills, once criticized as old-fashioned, turned out to be incredibly effective at building a strong knowledge base and automaticity, freeing up students' mental energy for more complex problem-solving. It was the high expectations. The teachers genuinely believed every student could succeed, and they pushed them to reach their full potential. They didn't accept excuses. They demanded excellence, and the students rose to the occasion. It was also the culture of respect and discipline. With fewer classroom disruptions, there was simply more time for learning. When students respect their teacher and their peers, the entire classroom becomes a more productive and positive space. And perhaps most importantly, it was the genuine care and personal investment. When students know their teacher believes in them, they start to believe in themselves. This builds confidence, resilience, and a love for learning. The critics who had once whispered about old methods were now looking at the hard data, and it was undeniable. These teachers were achieving results that few thought were possible. Suddenly, their old-school approach didn't seem so outdated. It seemed ... effective. School administrators and fellow teachers started taking notice. They began asking the Filipino teachers to share their strategies. They wanted to understand the secret sauce. The secret, of course, wasn't a secret at all. It was a philosophy rooted in hard work, discipline, respect, and a whole lot of heart. It was a testament to the idea that there isn't just one right way to teach. Effective teaching isn't about following the latest trend. It's about understanding the students in front of you and using the methods that work best for them. This story also shines a light on a broader, more important conversation. It challenges our preconceived notions about what modern and traditional education mean. It shows that some of the principles we might be quick to dismiss as old-fashioned things like memorization, discipline, and teacher-led instruction still have immense value. They can and should coexist with student-centered and inquiry-based learning. The best approach is often a balanced one, a hybrid that takes the best of all worlds. The success of these Filipino teachers is a victory for them, for their students, and for the communities they serve. It's a powerful reminder that good teachers can come from anywhere, and that excellence in education knows no borders. It's also a deeply inspiring story of resilience. These educators left their homes, adapted to a new culture, faced criticism, and not only succeeded, but set a new standard of excellence. They proved that with passion, dedication, and a belief in your students, the impossible can become possible. So, the next time you hear about an old method, maybe pause before judging. Sometimes, the most timeless and traditional approaches, when combined with genuine care and high expectations, are exactly what's needed to unlock a student's potential and help them soar. The legacy of these teachers isn't just in the test scores. It's in the thousands of lives they've changed, the students they've inspired, and the lesson they've taught us all about the enduring power of a great teacher. Thank you so much for watching. If this story inspired you, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. See you in the next video.